Have you ever looked at your life and thought, why does this keep happening? Why do I attract the same kind of relationship, the same kind of struggle, the same sense of like almost, but not quite? These aren't just habits, these are patterns. And so many of them actually didn't even start with you. They started long ago in the places where survival took precedence over presence. And so they were times where love more often had to be sacrificed for safety. One of the deepest parts of my shamanic journey was the first time I ever went to actually go see a shamanic practitioner. I had come across the idea of shamanic non-ordinary and soul retrieval, soul loss, and journeying. And I knew in some deep part of me that I was resonating with all of these concepts. They were a part of the work that I needed to do here in this lifetime. And yet I was really struggling on my own. And so I went to go see a practitioner to receive support for myself and so that they could journey for me, so they could show me what this all looked like. And one of the gifts that was brought back for me was when I was in my mother's womb and there was an x-ray. It's funny because she was an x-ray tech. um, and and the practitioner had no idea. She didn't know me at all. And and so in this there was a vision of me in a baby form, and that I at that time gave up the part of my soul that trusted in safety. So one of the very first shamanic gifts and parts of my soul that I received back was this gift of feeling safe, divinely safe. And since that time, I've done so many different things in my life that I never would have thought that I could have done. Because until that time, I really had lived a super cautious life. I was trying to play it safe in so many ways. And I see so much now why that is and how that type of behavior gets transferred through our lineage. We can also see repeating patterns of, the father did this, and so the grandfather did this, and the great grandfather did that. There's like a back and forth, almost like a ping pong that keeps going back, or a teeter totter. The balance keeps, hopefully, we're leveling out as time goes on, but the balance keeps getting drawn for us. And as soon as we become aware of one of these patterns, it opens a door for us to heal generationally, to heal our human collective consciousness, and to really support your family line, even as it stretches backward for their healing. So, what are some other inherited patterns? I would say chronic heartbreak, like if you've witnessed a lot of heartbreak or heartache in your lifetime, no matter the situation, it doesn't actually have to be romantic. But if you've witnessed a lot of heartbreak or heartache, then that would be a pattern you might carry. A big one, oh my gosh, a big one I'm seeing with a lot of people lately is fear of success. So really, there's this one interesting part of my lineage where I met one of my uncles after really not knowing him my whole life, which is a big part of my personal story. I always wish that, growing up, I wish that I had gotten to know all these aunts and uncles and grandparents, and I wish I had relationships in that. I used to wish that all the time as a kid, which is part of what tells me that I'm here for ancestral healing, because it really meant something to me. But this man I hadn't seen most of my life, and he was talking to me about how much money he had. And then he told me about how his father, so my grandfather on that side, wasn't very good with business and struggled with business, and that they, having not a lot of money, carried a lot of stress because of that. And this man was a very, very harsh man, was a very authoritative, demanding, I would say, not a great role model. And I was blessed actually that my parents chose not to have me in his life. as I was growing up, because perhaps I wouldn't have wanted to have him as an influence in my early years. And so things made a lot more sense to me about my family, about why things had gone the way they had gone, and about this flipping back and forth. I asked him, "You have," he said he had 750,000 in the bank, um, and he wasn't well. He didn't look well, and his life didn't seem very full of joy. And so I asked him, "What are you going to use that for? What is it for?" And he had no answer. He was so proud of himself for just hoarding that money. And it makes sense, because if his father had really struggled to hang on to anything, the thing that you would want to do is hold all the money that you can. And so I feel like I'm doing some deeper layers of healing, which is actually we could not fail at business, but we could also still earn a lot and give a lot, and that there would be more healing for my whole family line if this is the way that I chose to go about my life, my path. It is deep and dark stuff. A lot of the things that we are carrying from our lineage hold a lot of density to them, which is why it feels so much better when it's relieved. Some of these patterns too, they could be like self-sabotage or self-abandonment. Self-abandonment is really major. A lot of people who are drawn to spiritual and to shamanic work are drawn because there is some aspect of them which has abandoned themselves. They feel like, you might feel like less of yourself as you've gotten older, or that some parts of you have just been left in the past in some way, that you don't feel like your full self in the here and now. And a lot of these patterns are your ancestors asking to be heard in your journey now, and to be felt for their experience, and then finally healed by you creating the life that you were meant to live. It's very empowering and entirely worth it, I assure you. And so these patterns that you are living right now might not be fully yours. You take the part of them which is currently acting it out. So we got to take responsibility. You're definitely doing the thing. You're the one in the pattern. However, where it came from, when you're chasing some of these challenges and problems in your life, even emotional qualities, you're like, why am I just never happy? Right? Take a look. Who else has really struggled with joy in your lineage, and why? And could some of that be you learned and inherited it? Could some of that have just been passed down to you? And so it's your charge now to resolve that, to lighten up, to unburden the entire family line as it reaches backwards. So this healing, absolutely yours to claim, your responsibility, and also your privilege. It is so your privilege to even be aware that you need healing. This uncle of mine had no idea that he was requiring healing. And he died only, I think, about 6 weeks or just a couple months or something after that. And so I hadn't known him my whole life. And then we had this long conversation that I tried to understand the type of person he was. And I don't think he asked me hardly anything about myself. And it didn't matter really, because so much of that information was really, really, uh, it was such a gift. And it actually brought my mother and I closer together as well, because I truly then understood why the distance had been put in place with my own eyes. So let's do a little practice right now. So grab a piece of paper, maybe a pen or pencil, whatever you like to write with. I hope one day, I don't know why, but I hope one day that someone taking notes about something I'm saying is writing with like a feather quill, like a calligraphy pen on parchment or something really like. Would love to see that one day, one day. So grab a piece of paper, maybe pause the video, come back. Okay. And so write down, just jot down at the top of a page, one or two patterns. So just list a pattern that has repeated across your life. What is a familiar pattern in healing? So you might look at areas of relationships. You might look at career success. And then you also might look at physical health and well-being. Emotions also would be a part of that, or ways of thinking. And so now ask, who else lived this way? Who else do you know in your family who lived this way? Whose story might you be reliving? And then what did they survive that made that pattern necessary? So when we truly have empathy and understanding of why someone perhaps was the way they were, then we can make more peace with things because we have understanding. And it is really difficult. There are so many things that my family members have done I do not understand at all. It took me so long to actually build compassion for them because it really frustrated me. I was like, who does that about like a lot of different things? I'm giggling about it now because I mean, I think it was actually quite shocking to my spirit to just know that this was very much close to me and part of my my lineage is that some of these things are absolute atrocities what happened. And I think that's true of most of our families, to be honest. I would say it's probably impossible for a family to be unwounded or not carrying any traumas. It's a human experience to carry this density, this trauma. So, what did they survive that made this pattern necessary? That's something that's important to know. In the case of this uncle, actually, he did reveal quite a few things. One of the things he revealed was that when he was young, so six of my aunts and uncles on my mom's side had all gotten on a boat with my grandfather and grandmother. My grandmother I never really met. I think she died when I was maybe 2 or something. And they hopped on a boat, came from the Netherlands, Holland, all the way to Ontario. And they set up a tobacco farm. That was what they were doing. They bought like a plot of land and just came over with the promise of thinking, oh, Canada is going to hold all this success for us. It's just a vibrant land. And so he, when he was 10 years old, was in the schools, but had lived in the Netherlands. So he remembered feeling uncomfortable and out of place and struggling to belong. And their family was really struggling, right? So they weren't doing so well, and they had just gotten to Canada. And so he recounts to me, and this man really, he's quite a bit older when we're having this conversation. And he's talking to me about when he was like 10 years old. And keep in mind, this was the first time I've spoken to him since I was 5 years old, I think. I'm pretty sure it was since I was 5 years old. I don't know if there's any other time that I saw him in between 5 and 33. No, it would have been 30, 30, probably 30. I think I was age 30. I'm 33 now. It's probably age 30. And he was telling me about how he was bullied when he was young, that it was about his culture, his race, and people didn't like that he was Dutch. And he was holding on to that still. And I thought, wow, he is holding on to this as an active thought of how he has to prove himself, why the world's against him, how people judge him, how people don't like him, how people need to be told that that's not okay. They need revenge or something. And yet he was very, very unkind, abusive and authoritative towards his wife. I don't know with the children, but I imagine it wasn't an easy relationship with them either. And so I wonder really what could have been healed had he addressed what other stories he was also carrying. But this carried through so much in his lifetime that it shaped and warped his whole perception of how to prove himself and what he needed to do. It saddens me that he didn't get a chance to come into his heart during his lifetime. And I'm relieved by the idea that when people leave this world, they leave the burdens and suffering and density behind and they transfer over. Although I think it's a little more complex than that, but more on that another time. So you might do this with a few different patterns. Take another pattern. Maybe you started with relationships and now you want to take a health or a career pattern on, right? Or vice versa. And just take a look, reflect, see. And then maybe if you don't come up with an answer of where that came from, it could be that you actually don't know that ancestor yet, or it could be part of your spirit ancestors, right? Your lineage that connects to the galactic realm or to past lives. So if you're curious about exploring this on an individual level, I would encourage you to pursue some way of working with me. This is a special focus of mine and has been basically my whole life. And I've only really realized that recently. You know, your ancestors were praying for you, and they didn't necessarily have the words, but they do have the feeling that they believe in you and they are encouraging you. And it's this type of support that I really believe we all need to have a relationship with. We'd all feel a little stronger if we truly felt like we were supported beyond even what we see. So you don't need to be a product of your past. Let me make that very, very, very clear. You don't need to be a product of your family's past. We all carry things. However, I believe if you've found this message and if you found this channel, you are here to be a spiritual disruption or an interruption of this pattern. You're like a breath of fresh air, and it's just been a dense, like, I don't know, I'm just seeing a funeral, everyone just standing there, moody and dense. And you come in like, let's celebrate their life, right? You're the contrast to what has gone on. Breaking cycles is not betraying at all where you came from. It is actually really being reverent to the journey your ancestors went on to get you here to this moment. How amazing to be alive in this moment. I'm really committed to helping us lift some of these ancestral wounds so that we can really collectively, globally, reconnect with our sense of innocence and of potential and of community and support. I truly feel that is a gift that the ancestors are wanting to give us. So I will be going to Mount Shasta in the next week. I'll be sharing some updates from there, so look forward to that. The last time I went to Mount Shasta a few weeks ago, I really had a serious upgrade, update even on my energetic system. So I can't wait to spend a couple days there and see what else comes out, and then bring you all there next year for Oracle Fest. But before that, I am hosting the Return to Earth Ancestral Healing Retreat in Scotland with my dear friend Sky. And I'm really looking forward to it. I keep getting these glimpses of moments of what that retreat will feel like, what it will be like. I feel like there's going to be a lot of releasing for people, a lot of shedding, and a lot of soothing and nurturance. There's a hot tub and a sauna, and I can make aromatherapy baths for people. We are bringing in different plant medicines, nothing over the top, but just recognizing and honoring plants and the gifts that they bring. We're going to be having amazing feasts and food, storytelling and nature time and deep ceremony, powerful ceremony. And we're going to be connecting with each other. So it will be more than that. And it will also be, I would say, a starting place, a deep journeying into your ancestral line, especially if you've been doing some work around it, but really haven't gone in. And you don't need to know a whole bunch about your stories. You don't have to have met some of your relatives in order for this to make sense. I actually think that's something that Sky and I have in common, is that we had a lot of disconnects with our family, and that is what charged us with ancestral healing. So in fact, I would probably count it as probably an extra check on the "you're here to do this" work, is if you have felt disconnect with your family in some kind of way, or an extreme pressure or intensity to solve some of these challenges that your family line carries. So thank you for being here, for continuing to honor your ancestors by focusing on your own soul's evolution and growth, and helping us all collectively lighten up. Thank you for being here. And if you resonate with what we're doing here, what I'm doing here, and what we're going to do in the retreat, I highly recommend you get involved, reach out, at least send us a message or put a comment down below. That way you're going to keep seeing things. And if you're here in the video, if you wouldn't mind liking, commenting, subscribing, any type of love you could give this channel, I would be so grateful. I just feel like so many more people need to be aware of these things. And so the better we can get that out there, the more we can get that out there, the better. Okay. Enjoy the rest of your day, your evening, wherever you are, and we will chat again soon.